Welcome everybody to Coffee with the Coach. I appreciate you all taking this time out to learn. Today we are going to be talking about expired listings. As we're talking about expired listings, we are also going to, I will throw in there a little bit about for sale by owners, because some of the things that we do to work on expired listings will also be the same information you can use for working with for sale by owners. So the first thing I want to talk about, I'm going to look at the outline and let's just think about it. We know that right now is one of the biggest issues is there's no inventory out there. So if you have buyers, you can't seem to find a property for your buyer, or if you find a buyer, then you are going to enter into a multiple offer situation where probably goes to highest and best, and it may go to $100,000 or more over the sale price, the list price. So it can be real challenging. So I'm going to talk about a little bit about expireds, because expireds are people that may have had their property on the market, either a couple of weeks ago or 6 months ago or even a year ago, and they've never relisted. So the key thing is to understand why all real estate agents should make working expireds part of their business plan. Now, remember, I spoke about what's called the spokes concept, and that is different streams of lead generation, where we've talked about sphere of influence and past clients. We've also talked about vendors. Now I'm going to talk about expired listings. So this should be part of your business plan. They can be a great source of immediate business. Basically, if it's expired, you already know that they did have the motivation to sell, that they were actually willing to hire a broker. Other from a for sale by owner. For sale by owners are putting the sign up there because they don't want to pay the commission. But with an expired, they were willing to hire an agent and they were willing to pay a commission. But you already know also when you're working with that expired, when you're talking to them, that the price that they had on the property obviously did not work, or the property would have sold. So, and it all comes down to price. Maybe the price seemed right, but it wasn't right for the condition or the time of the property. So we need to understand the mindset of the expired seller. They're cautious and mistrusting of the real estate agent. They also feel like they've been rejected by the market, and they oftentimes get emotional about it. I'm going to share a scenario that will kind of help you see into the mind of an expired listing and kind of help you deal with their outward pouring of emotion, or even their outward pouring of anger. Now, imagine you, and I'm sure a lot of you have in the past, gone on a blind date. Now, you make plans to meet at the restaurant. You're meeting at 7 o'clock. And so you make sure, and you get there a few minutes early because you've never met this person before. They're supposed to be wearing a red rose or a red shirt. And so you get there a little bit before. You let the maitre d' know that you're there for the reservation. And they said, well, is your party there? Well, your party's not there. No, they'll be here any minute. So, okay, just wait. So you wait 5 minutes and still nobody shows up. And you're getting kind of anxious, and you don't want to lose the table. So you go to the maitre d' and you make up a story and say, oh, I just got a text. They're just parking the car. They're coming in, they're wearing a red sweater. So can you take me to the table so I can get started ordering the drinks while they're coming in? Sure. So you get to the table and you order a bottle of wine and you're sitting there drinking the wine. And by this time now, another 10 minutes has gone by. And you finished one glass of wine. And just so you didn't look too embarrassed that it would look like there was one person, you ordered a bottle. So now you have another glass. And you're sitting there waiting. The bread's there. You're almost finished with the basket of bread. You've finished 2 glasses of wine. It's now 25 minutes past and you're getting kind of fidgety. You're looking at your phone, clicking through. Did you miss any texts? And you visibly, by everybody in the restaurant, look upset. And so one of the patrons, the table next door, leans over and says, hey, is everything okay? And you unload. No, it's not okay. My date was supposed to be here at 7 o'clock. It's a blind date. They never showed up. They didn't have a call. They didn't text. I'm sitting here drinking, da, da, da. You're blasting this stranger. Did the stranger do anything to you except for ask, is everything okay? And at that point, you're blasting them. Now, so imagine that the expired listing owner is the one that's sitting at the table drinking the wine and eating the bread, and their date did not show up. That's basically how you think of them, because the seller was there. They were ready to sell, but the real estate agent didn't show up to do their job. And so the next person that talks about them, is everything okay, in regards to their listing, they're going to blast. So sometimes when you hear that expired listing person, if you get them on the phone and they're blasting you, you need to make sure and just understand they're not yelling at you. They're yelling at that other agent. That other agent that should have done the job that they're so upset with, but they can't. So they're taking it out on you, but you just need to deflect it, listen, make notes, because some of the things they say to you in that rant is some of the things that they actually expected the agent to do, and the agent did not perform. So that will give you an insight. So a lot of times the buyers will blame the agent for, or excuse me, the sellers will blame the agent for the property not selling. But we know oftentimes it's not always the agent's fault. So sometimes the agents will blame the seller, and they will say they wouldn't reduce the price. Now, can that be partially the agent's fault as well? It absolutely can, because there are agents out there, and if you don't know, I'm going to tell you, there are agents out there that they will go out and they will meet with the person to interview them for the job of listing their home, and the owner says, I want it to be this price. You know full well that that price is too high, but you figure, I'll take the listing and I'll get them to lower the price and we'll get the property sold. Not every seller is going to be convinced to lower the price, because by you, the professional, saying, okay, we'll list it at that, you have now justified their thought that their house is worth that amount of money. All right. The real reason that most expireds fail to sell is the three factors of homes selling: price, condition, and location. You can only control two of those three factors. The location is what it is. And I tell you, I have tried to sell a home that was truly 3 feet off a busy road. And what I mean by busy road, the speed limit was 40 miles an hour on this road. And the house was literally, if I stuck my arm straight out the living room window, leaned out a little bit, I would have to be concerned that my fingertips would be taken off by a car speeding by. That's how close it was. Now, it was the original Jackson General Store in the 1800s. So do you think there was a reason this property, this building was built very close to the road? Absolutely. It was a general store when it was horse and buggy. The barn there had stables for livery. So you need to be close. And the road probably was about the same width, maybe not that wide. So it was fine at that point, but it wasn't today, and people didn't want to buy it. The location is what the location is. Now, we can make recommendations to improve the condition. We can talk about staging. We can talk about the price with guidance if it's too high. But sometimes homes don't sell because of poor marketing or staging, but it's almost the price, almost always the price is too high for what it is. Again, maybe the price is right if the house was in perfect condition. And right now we're having some issues with this because almost every house put on the market is having multiple offers, but not everyone, because people are thinking, oh, you know what, the properties are selling for $100,000 more, so I'm going to list my house for $100,000 more. And then people won't even make the offer because they're looking at the condition and they're not even willing to make a full price offer. And that's frustrating the seller because they think they should be getting at least a full price offer. So 3 key ways to winning expired listings: be the first to contact. Now, that can be a good thing, that can be a bad thing. You might get exactly what I was talking about in that restaurant scenario. You may get the earful. There is also the opposite to that, that sometimes people need to sit and percolate for a while. So you wait until everybody has tried to be the first one, and you wait 3 months to 6 months. That can make a difference. Another key factor is don't criticize the home and tell the homeowner what they did wrong. They didn't do anything wrong, even though they may have. You need to have a relationship. And we're going to talk about this a little bit later. You need to have that relationship. And also then learn scripts and ask open-ended questions. The key thing to asking open-ended questions is always remember a question: who, what, when, where, why, how. Try to avoid a yes or no question unless you specifically need to get a yes or no question or a choice question. If you need an answer, give them the choice of 2 so they actually give you an answer. But oftentimes you want to explore, you want to dig deeper, you want to learn about that motivation. All right. And then the last thing is know the numbers. Know the market around the expired listing, know the sales, the ratios, and the trends, and be able to quote them without a. Understand, if you're regularly working expireds in an area, you should know this. You should take a time out of your day once or twice a week to review stats, look at areas. If you really want to work an area, really know that area or multiple areas in detail. Be prepared to contact an expired up to 8 times before getting the listing. Remember what I told you about follow-up. Follow-up, you need follow-up 5 times. It gives you an 80% chance of working with that individual, that person, that couple. 5 times. This is, you need to be ready to contact an expired listing because now they have something against a real estate agent. So 8 times is the magic number there. If you've contacted 5 expired listings a week for 50 weeks, you would have spoken to 250 sellers interested in selling their home. How many listings would you list if you made the effort? Think about it. Think about how many. Now, I listened to my regular inspirational 5 o'clock phone call this morning. It's my mentor in California, so it's 5 a.m. in California. I'm lucky I get to be on the phone with him at 8 o'clock in the morning. But one of the key elements they were talking about this morning in this call was trying. Being able to try. You don't always win on the first try. You don't. But winners actually get back up and try again. Those people that don't win on the first try, that completely stop, they're not winners. And they never will win. So expireds are a tough road, but if you learn, if you work them, and you're not going to be successful the first time that you're working with them, you need to keep doing it, because the one most important thing in everything you do with real estate, and why sometimes people say, my gosh, John, how do you know this stuff? I've been practicing real estate for 17 years. So years of experience and practice really help. If you're newer, it's going to take a while, but eventually you'll get to the point where you'll be able to call expires, you'll be able to go to FSBOs, and you will start getting those listings because you've practiced it and you've honed your skill. You don't win the first time, maybe you don't win the second time, but you will win if you keep trying. That's the key thing. So I have a script here, and I'm going to do the script first. And Trisha has agreed to be my guinea pig. I am going to play the part of the agent. And then I want you all, see if we have anybody that's willing to do it. And if not, then next week, I will expect 4 versions of this script back on. So you can either do it now or do it next week, when next week you'll have to be much better. All righty. So Trisha, are you out there? You ready?
Hold on.
Let me see that face. I think she's trying to go someplace where it's quiet because I hear talking in the background. She's in the same office. Trisha?
Okay, I'm here. Sorry. I'm here.
All righty, good. You ready? Tell all those guys out there to be quiet for a little bit, all right? Because I can hear Frank talking, unless he's on the phone.
I don't know if that's going to be possible. I can come in there with you, but it'll echo, I think.
Come in without your computer and see if that works.
Okay.
We're in the Oceanport office. Sit over here so they can hear you on the volume. All right. Say hello, and everybody give me a thumbs up if you can hear Trisha.
Hi.
I got a little So
Don't.
move over here.
I'll talk loud. I can
Move
hear
over here and
myself.
talk loud. You gotta be in the camera. Stage fright. Oh my God. And she got bronze this year and she's got stage fright. Go figure. All righty, so I'm gonna go through the script. Now, there is a typo, 1 or 2 typos in it because I typed it and and I proofread it, but I still didn't get all the typos. So I will send you a new one without typos in it. But here we go. So ring, ring. Hi, is this Trisha?
Yes, hi.
Hi, Trisha. I'm John, a local real estate agent, and I was calling about your house for sale. I guess you're aware by now that the MLS is showing your home is off the market.
I am.
Louder, can't
I
hear you.
am.
Well, and I was wondering, when are you going to interview agents again for the job of actually getting it sold?
I'm not really sure if I'm going to.
Okay, excellent. If your property had sold, where were you planning to go next?
Florida.
Wow, that's exciting. Florida. What's taking you to Florida?
The sunshine, warm weather, and a job.
Good for you. Good for you. Hey, so how soon did you want to be there?
As soon as possible.
As soon as possible. Wow. Well, okay. So, Trisha, any idea what stopped it from selling?
I'm not really sure.
Really? How did you choose the agent you had?
It was a friend.
A friend. That makes sense. So how did you feel about the job that the agent did?
It was so-so. I think they could have maybe marketed it more.
Oh, okay. So what do you think was missing that kept it from actually selling?
Like I said, marketing, I think. Didn't really do many open houses.
Oh, okay. Okay. Now, it sounds like you still want to sell your property. Is that right?
I could.
Okay, great. If you could get it sold for top dollar in the next 30 days and get to Florida, is that something you would still be excited about? Yes?
Yes.
Yes. Good. Perfect. And if I could help you make it happen, that would be okay with you, right?
Right.
Excellent. Excellent. Now, when would be the best time for us to get together and take a look at how we can make that happen? How about Wednesday at 4:15? Or would Thursday at 5:30 be better?
Wednesday at 4:15 would be great.
Great. I will see you then. Thanks, Trisha. It was great talking to you.
Thanks, John. Have a nice day.
All righty. That's as simple as it is. Any thoughts on that?
Question, John.
John,
Go ahead, open up your mics.
I don't know, is anyone talking yet? Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. To me, just being, if I was like the client on this end, it would, to me, sound like you were almost saying, I can get your house sold in 30 days. You know, you see those billboards where it says, I guarantee your house sold in 30 days. To me, I would be almost like you were saying, I can get your house sold in 30 days, which if she was already disappointed that it wasn't sold in 6 months, it would be like another disappointment. Like you said, 30 days, I'd be on my road to Florida.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously that's not what you would discuss when you got to her home on Thursday.
Exactly. I wouldn't discuss that, but that's what, there's a possibility if you price it right.
It gets your attention.
You could get it sold in 30 days.
Right.
Could get at least a
Mhm.
offer in 30 days.
Interest and offer, yeah. Mhm.
So,
Right.
and oftentimes people think, when people think sold, they don't necessarily mean closed. They think they're under contract for sale.
Right.
Hey,
sure.
John.
Yes, go ahead.
John, what about just improvising a little bit and, they're looking to sell it and she wants to get to Florida and there's a point of conversation saying, well, we can list it for sale, but have you thought about maybe renting it and putting it for sale at the same time?
You could, that's a possibility of a discussion you could have when you got there. But again, they had their house on the market for sale. And oftentimes when people are selling their house, they actually need the cash from selling. So renting won't quite work because they need to buy another property with that income. But I mean, that's a good point and it's a good discussion. But the key element here is getting into the property, getting into that home. And so this is short and sweet to get in. Now, of course, I practiced it a little bit. And again, the one key thing about scripts is you need to read through them over and over and over. Read to them to a mirror, read to them while you're smiling. I wasn't smiling a lot. I forgot about that. You know, which that just makes sure you know people can feel that through the phone conversation. So how was it? I don't think I practiced it enough, but I practiced it a couple of times to be ready. How did it sound? Did it sound scripted? I don't hear a word.
Not really.
Only because
Not really? Good.
you.
Everybody go ahead and open up your microphone. So unless you've got something like a dog barking in the background, open it up, talk.
But it sounded a little bit too scripted.
Little too scripted. Okay.
It was scripted.
Absolutely was scripted. But, and Cindy, understand you saying that, okay. So I got something that just came up, okay. It sounded a little scripted. As you rehearse it, as you get to know it very well, you won't actually use these exact words. Your words will change a little bit. So I'm glad you brought that up, Cindy, because one of the things when you read it, it's like, oh, that sounds too scripted. But what you do is you have to practice it so much that you kind of have the script there to keep you where you are, but you know well enough the questions that you're asking, so it sounds natural. Lisa.
Yeah, I learned this script, I think 10 years ago in Bold and through Keller Williams. I've read this script so many times, and I agree with John. It's not that you're saying exactly what it is, it's that you know where to go in the conversation so that you don't get tripped up and like, well, where do I go now with this? Like, you know, you're getting to the motivation. That is like the key of this is a motivational script. Where do you need to be? When do you need to be there? What is important to you about that? And then you always repeat that back. So let me get that right. You're saying Florida, we want to be there by May. You're moving there to be close to your family, and you really want to get top dollar and sell this within 30 days. You know, you repeat back what their motivation is. And you do internalize it, and you won't say the same things, but you'll know where to go in your mind for the next question. And I agree with John. I have a standing desk. Stand up. A lot of people say have a mirror in front of you. Look at yourself while you're talking. Like right now, if I look at myself, I'm more engaged than if I'm like looking down at the stapler. So look at yourself as if you're talking to someone. And the other piece I'd say is I think this script is great. I think it's a little outdated because we don't have a huge influx of expireds. When I first came into the business, there were so many expireds. Things weren't selling. It was more of a buyer's market. And if you weren't perfect, you weren't selling. Now we know what the story is. The script has changed a little bit. I think what you can focus on is looking even 6 months ago, if there's any expireds that didn't sell. And I'd go back 3 years and I'd go back 5 years. And I'd hone in on an area that you love, that you know, find those expireds, make sure they didn't sell. You're going to have to do a little bit more legwork here, but make sure that they didn't sell, that they didn't come back on the market after you saw that expired from 5 years ago. And the conversation is going to be, I saw your listing expired back in 2015. I'm sure you're seeing and hearing that the market is extremely different now. We're seeing appreciation rates from when you tried to sell of up to 30%. That's the truth. And you
know some of those numbers. Lisa's right.
I just looked at when I bought my house 5 years ago. I bought it for $390. I sold it for $540 right when the pandemic started. By the way, I just sold the house across the street for about 11% more than I sold my house just 6 months ago. 11% is 60 grand. So it's a lot of money we're talking about for people to actually net who might be like, well, we just got used to living in our house again. And it's like, okay, well, what if I was to get you this number, would that be motivation for you to think about selling again? So I think that's where they say the gold is if you mine deeper. So go deep, find those old expireds, circle a couple and have those be like, oh yeah, I'm gonna get Fairhaven, over on Church and Maple. I'm just gonna look at in that neighborhood, anything that expired in the last I'm gonna go 5 years ago. And in your MLS search, go from 2015, 1/1/2015 to 12/31/2015, and look at anything that expired. Double check in Realist that they didn't sell it off market, double check in the MLS. And if it still is available, you're gonna have that conversation and do your numbers of how much they would actually sell it for today, because people are shocked at the numbers that they can get.
Right.
So I think
A little shortcut when you're looking at expires, when you pull up that listing, click on the history. That even if it's sold 2 years later,
Right.
it will be in the history.
Thanks,
of that
John.
property.
That's a good tip. Yeah. So I think that's the true power of expireds right now, is go back. And we were doing that even 5 years ago, we were going back. But now that is the conversation. Like, the market has shifted dramatically since you were last on the market. Have you done any updates in the last 5 years? Maybe that was the difference maker. You know, what's your equity look like? So I think that's a great way to hit expireds right now.
Great.
And
Question?
practice your scripts and know your numbers. Know them like the back of your hand. Know every single house that sold this past year. Just have it in front of you.
Mm-hmm. Yes, this script came from, it's called I believe it's Kevin Wand is the guy's name, but it's from the Book of Yes. Is a great book. So I definitely encourage getting it and reading it, because that's what, when I was like, okay, preparing this, it's like, I went through the Book of Yes to look and read, study some things, and get the script printed right out of it. It is a couple of years old. Doesn't mean it's absolutely outdated, can't be used. Because usually when, top coaches write a script, they've worked with it. They don't just write something. They've worked with it. Thanks, Michael. I'll send you the recording. All righty. Now, the last page that I sent you was the 5 steps to FX success. And FX is just an abbreviation of that agents use for FSBOs and expireds when they're talking about them, because FSBOs and expireds, oftentimes there's a lot of the same issues that go on. So with the 5 steps to FSBO and expired success, there's these 5 items that will definitely cross over between the two. So I want to talk about them. I printed it here, take some notes. I'm going to do some bullet points, but as I was doing some more reading last night, I found these and I thought, oh, I wanted to include these as well. So I wrote them out so you can actually take some notes, and then I'll also try to do some bullet points of what I talked about to send them out. So connect. Connect is one of the really key elements, and I say this a lot, is rapport, build rapport. And how can you build rapport? You need to identify with what they do not want to use in an agent. Not by saying, oh yeah, he was awful, or yeah, she was awful. Just identify what they didn't like. Make sure that you can write that down, because you don't want to repeat that. Don't try to convince them to hire you, because if you're just trying to convince them, you're not connecting with them. You want them to know you. You want them to have a connection with you before. Speak in terms of their interest. Again, in trying to connect, you're asking questions: who, what, when, why. You're digging. You're helping to learn more about that person so you can connect. You can find a common element with them. Position. Now you need to position yourself as their agent. Try to put yourself in that. If, sometimes you'll be calling them and you thought you connected with them, they had a nice conversation, and now they ghost you. They don't return your calls. Well, if they stop completely returning your calls, you called them and emailed them and everything, and you still don't hear from them, what that basically means is you didn't connect. So one way in this modern time of ours, one really great way of connecting with a potential client, which is different than a phone call, is to actually shoot a personal video as a follow-up appointment. Now you are a real person. Now they can see your face. You know, it's really harder to ghost you. They don't necessarily care about your marketing. They want to know you. And key thing, do you get paid for your marketing plan? That's what they're paying you for? Now, they're paying you for results. And when the agent does get results, why should they pay you? And that's why oftentimes they don't rehire. So understand the position. All right. Inspire the hire. Remember that. Do not get in under false pretenses. That's one thing. You know, some people, if they're going in for a FSBO or an expired, they're saying, I have a buyer. And one of the things I've always said is never, ever, ever tell your client, or not your client, tell that prospect that you have a buyer, because starting out with a lie is just going to hurt you. Also, a lot of agents say, if I bring a buyer, will you pay me? Now, that's really great, because you want to know that, yes, they're willing to pay you a commission. But at the same time, when you say that, if I bring a buyer, will you pay me? Also, in the back of their head, they're thinking, well, all I have to do is sit here and answer phone calls from real estate agents, and that's all. I don't have to relist my property, because they'll bring me buyers. And all I have to do is pay them a small commission, and I will be safe. Agents with neutral buyers go through the MLS. Agents with buyers go through the MLS. So think about that. If you were a seller and really a wise seller, you're thinking, that's great, they're going to bring me a buyer. You're an agent. You have a very valid buyer. Where do you start looking for the buyer's property? You start looking on the MLS, don't you? You don't start looking through the expireds to find them. Only that is what I talked to a couple of people, and I've said recently, if you're having trouble finding that home for your client, and you've gone through everything, they've made offers, I say put the exact same search in the MLS as you would for an active listing, but now click off the box for expired and see if there's any matches, because that may be a way to find them. But don't go down this, this realm of, if I bring you a buyer, you want to get in there. Demonstrate to them that you can deliver the results. You can list their home and get it sold. Make the extreme look effortless, because it is extreme, and that's the key thing to get you hired, and you will be, it will be effortless. So
Also, John, use data. Data's on your side right now. Things are selling. You guys are seeing 4 days. Average days on market just to get under contract is probably around 11 right now. So that's also a speaking point.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Inspire the hire. Why should they hire? Because we know those statistics from the MLS. What's the statistics on the expireds getting results, getting sold? They're not. So inspire the hire. The next thing is deliver results. The most common failure is an overpriced listing. So one of the things I strongly, strongly encourage you is never take an overpriced listing and never work with an unmotivated seller. Always, they've got to have motivation. Why are they going to sell? Are they putting it on the market because they want to see how much it's worth? Those are the sellers that list it high, and if they don't get this ridiculously high price, they're not going to sell. You're going to spin your wheels and not get anything, then they'll let it expire, and they don't really care. The good thing is they may not have any ill will towards you, but you've wasted a lot of time and energy because you took an overpriced listing. Right? Lisa, anything to say about taking overpriced listings?
Not a fan. They end up being tons of work and uncomfortable conversations, and you're always battling against the market. So it's not a great position to be in. Have I done it? Yes. Have I eventually gotten them sold? Sometimes yes, sometimes no. So it's a lot of effort. One of my old mentors said, I'd rather let you down now than overpromise and let you down later. So being honest about a price from the starting point, like, look, I'm going to be really honest with you because I'm not helping you if I'm not. You have to communicate why you're coming in that direction. Set the context for when you give them that number. Like, I'd rather let you down now and part ways than take this and then let you down later because I knew that this wouldn't sell. So just be smart about it. Have the conversation, have the honest conversation, and set the context for it. Don't just go, your house isn't worth that. Like, you got to be delicate about how you set the context. And I think that's so important to say why you're saying that.
Lisa, have you ever walked out? Lisa, have you ever walked out on somebody when they insisted on a price and you wouldn't do it?
I know you have, John. Have I? Not blanketly, no. I have said, like, maybe we're just not a match, or, maybe talk to some other agents and we can revisit it. I've never just been like, bye, but sometimes then I just didn't get it, and I was fine with that. Sometimes I didn't get the listing and I was okay with that.
Well, I have to say the 2 times that I walked out, I didn't get out the door. I attempted to walk out. And I'm going to tell you, many times, like Lisa, I took an overpriced listing in the beginning of my career because it's like I didn't have any business, so I was taking it. By the time I was at the point where I'm taking off, I was 8 years in the business and I didn't care. I didn't need. I had 11 listings at that point. I didn't need 2 more that were overpriced to take up my time. So I said, if that's the situation, and I didn't tell them the price, I said, here's the range, and they didn't want to stay within that range. And I said, that's fine. And I put my stuff together and thank you, have a nice day, and started walking to the door. And both times, and it was so funny because it happened the exact same day. And it was the day before, I'll never forget it because it was the day before Sandy hit. And both of those properties sold in 3 months.
Pretty good.
Even with Sandy hitting. So
another thing that I like to say is the market is going to tell us, the market will correct itself. Like, people are like, oh, I don't want to just give the house away. I always say that's never going to happen because the market will correct itself. If we've underpriced your home, you're going to get multiple offers and we're going to go over the list price. If we've overpriced your home, you're going to see 95% of asking offers, maybe less, So always give that comfort. Like, look, I know it seems tricky to pick a number, especially if you're not sure. Like, I just listed a house where I wasn't sure because of the current market conditions. I was pushing the value and it sold for 50 grand over where I was pushing the value. So it just goes to show you, but I said, I feel comfortable here and I know that the market's going to correct us if we're wrong.
Right.
So that's something I usually say.
And Lisa here is talking about numbers. So, and one of the numbers that you should be able to utilize and strive to utilize, especially when you working on number 4, delivering results, it'd be able to say, I appreciate that, but would you rather work with an agent that sells every listing? If you price it right, you can sell every one of your listings and you've got the statistics to back it up. Or you're only selling 60% of your listings because you're taking overpriced listings. So deliver results, I deliver results. I sell every one of my listings. And then number 5 is leverage success. And the key thing about leveraging your success is when you have success, get a testimonial. Get a handwritten testimonial, but better yet, in this day and age, get a video testimonial. Do you know how many video testimonials I see on Facebook and Instagram? Little snippets. Perfect. You're in front of the people, your client's new house. Just ask them to say a few words about how they appreciated working with you. Take a little and send it. Leverage your success by sending it to those sending that video to those expired listings. Leverage success. Questions?
Comment about the script too. I think I would hesitate on, like, one of my hesitations with the script would be on line 10, if you could get sold for top dollar in the next 30 days. I think someone already mentioned over promising the timeline, but I would also hesitate to say top dollar if we're already suggesting that their house was overpriced and that's why it didn't sell. So is there maybe another angle to take on that part of the script? And then additionally, I had some friends that were trying to sell their condo in Hoboken and they had totally unrealistic expectations, especially in Hoboken where, you know, people are leaving, not flooding to go there. They wanted to list for like 50,000 over what the market was saying. And one angle I kind of used to her was, you know, I know you guys want to get top dollar for this, but there's also a strategy to pricing it right because you don't want to miss out on, you know, a group of sellers. So by bringing your price down, kind of like what Lisa said, it will correct itself. But I think when you try to get them to shift their strategy of, you know, everybody just wants to get the most they can get for it, but you also don't want them to miss out on buyers. And, you know, not that we ever want to encourage bidding wars, but, you know, we can encourage that they might get more offers, which would drive the price up. So that was sort of a way that I was able to kind of shift her mentality.
Cool. Yeah, one of the things that you can,
Right.
you know, you can keep throwing in there, use these 3 phrases. You know, you want to get them the most amount of money in the shortest amount of time with the least amount of hassle. Most amount of money, least amount of time, or shortest amount of time, least amount of hassle. And I'll write those down because if you can say those over and over and over again, maybe that 30 days, you know, throw that out, but say, you know what, most amount of money in the least amount of time with the, or the shortest amount of time with the least amount of hassle. Any other questions? Judy, did you have a question?
Yes, I do. And it's for Lisa. Lisa, I like your idea about statistics. And I want to know where your go-to place for getting statistics on the MLS or anywhere is. Because I think that's a great thing to arm yourself with.
Yeah, because numbers don't lie and they're not emotional. So your opinion on their house is going to evoke a way more emotive response than, well, here's the standard listing time, here's what the selling, 96% of list price. You know, the numbers don't lie. They tell a story. So I usually do a good old fashioned CMA. That's where I like to start because I'm probably going to go over that information anyhow. You can also run reports. I don't do that many reports. I usually rely on just going into the MLS and then looking at the breakdowns at the bottom. And if I need to do additional math, you know, like figuring that out. So I would just do a CMA. If you know that you're going to hit a certain area or a certain home of the area, look at what the percentage of list price to sale price is. It has the average days on market down there. And then you'll have other properties right in front of you to reference if they start asking you questions. Well, what kind of properties are you talking about? Then you have them right there. You know, you have pictures of them. Oh, it was a 4-bed, 2-bath, this many square feet, built in, blah, blah, blah. You know, I like to have the full CMA rather than just a report that shows the graphs because it's a fuller story. So if people ask you questions, you have that information.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Great, excellent. Any other questions?
Yeah, sorry, I have a question. So obviously there's a lot of like research in terms of the numbers and stuff that you would be doing if you got the appointment. But do you ever find that just with the script, it's like I know you have to know your market area, but do you ever find that you're sort of caught off guard by immediate questions that come up when you haven't perhaps done like the CMA yet or things like that?
I would do all your research. Like, the more prepared you are, just like going on a listing appointment, a phone call, you could treat it the same way. If you're really going to hit a neighborhood in Fairhaven, then like this is my neighborhood. If you have all that data, you study it, you get it kind of internalized, and you have it right there to reference, that phone call is going to be a heck of a lot more impactful. So preparation is key, just like going on a listing. The more prepared you are, the more comfortable you're going to feel too. You're going to feel more confident that you know what you're talking about. So I think taking that time to do that research, do it at night. Do it at night, the night before you plan on making the calls. Go over it that night, go over it in the morning, highlight what you need to. You know, I think that time is well spent. If you get caught off guard with a question, I always say, you know what? I want to make sure I get you the most accurate information. Let me jot that down. I'm going to double check on that.
And remember also, it's easy to answer a question with a question. Digging deeper. Give a small answer, but dig deeper into, like, why is that important to you? Because oftentimes those questions are questions because of something that has happened. So if you dig a little bit deeper and find out why that question is really important to them, why that issue is important to them, that might lead to a whole nother discussion where you really have to answer that question. It's really, you found out the information that you need to answer the question when you're in that listing appointment.
But sorry, are you suggesting, Lisa, that we do a CMA for each expired that we're calling?
If you're going to farm an area, it's going to be pretty similar. So you could do one CMA. You could pick like, okay, I'm going to do a mile radius right here, Fairhaven, wherever, whatever town, or a neighborhood. A neighborhood's even easier. Like, I'm going to do Applebrook in Middletown. I'm just going to do Applebrook today. I'm going to pull all the expireds, and then you're going to have the same CMA for most of them. So it's not going to be like, oh my God, I just had to do 20 CMAs. You're probably going to do one for that day's calls, and then you'll have all that data right in front of you. And the more you talk to people, the more you're going to internalize it.
Yeah.
And if you're working that area,
You're going to know.
You know the area. So the CMA will be simple. You could easily click on RPR, get a good snapshot. And again, you've been learning that area, so you know. So it's easy to answer those questions.
Okay,
right?
thanks.
RPR is changing, so check out the changes as soon as they're posted. All right. All right.
Hey, John.
Yes, Ferdinand.
Just one thing that I thought from my experience selling, like I've sold timeshares. I sold timeshares for several years, and if you guys don't know, it's kind of hard.
That's a real dog-eat-dog business.
Yeah, I was pretty successful at it, and I think what good practice, and everyone keeps saying preparation, but prepare for the objections. Like, what are the objections? Overcoming those objections, getting the no's out. After you get those out, you'll start getting the yeses. I think folks get scared. Like, what do I do if they ask me this? And then they end up becoming paralyzed, analysis by paralysis. And then you make 0 calls. Practice objections and overcoming it. Practice it with someone in your house and say, kind of like your script with Trish came off too easy, almost to the point where, okay, you were kind of directing it. Like if she had told you, well, why are you calling me? Like, I'm busy right now, or something like that. Or, she was a little angry, and then you were able to kind of soothe her feelings and her whatever, just basically overcoming it.
Right.
I think is a key.
Key thing is get in, there's a lot of objections, yeah, be prepared, but the script is getting in. You want to get in face to face with an appointment. You don't want to handle it all over the phone and then they don't need to talk to you anymore. Face to face, people rather would, do business with you face to face. If they can get rid of you over the phone, they'll never want to deal with you again. You don't want that. You want to see them face to face. All right? Any other questions? Thanks all. We will, thank you Ferdinand for bringing that up because we do need to talk about handling objections. So we will do another session on handling objections. All right. Thanks for attending Coffee with the Coach. Any further detailed questions, we'll talk about them in our sessions. All right. Have a great week, everybody. Make sure and use your tracking forms because I want those before each meeting. You should be tracking every day. Have a great week.
Thanks, John.
Bye, thank you.